Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NFL Week 12 edition of the Player Prop Countdown, where I rank my 10 favorite and best player props for this week's NFL action. If you're looking for my best bets on a side or total for every single game for Week 12, you can check out the Road to 272, which was released earlier this morning. Be sure now, before you do anything else, click on subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're not watching this on YouTube, go to YouTube and do me a favor by subscribing to the Bacon Bets podcast. A quick recap of last week's player props. I went 5-5 for a small profit of plus 0.44 units. Thank God for Juwan Jennings for scoring an anytime touchdown for us. One that we hadn't cashed on a touchdown score the past couple of weeks, so it was nice to hit that one, especially because hitting that at a little over 2-1 got us to a profit despite going 5-5. Just to recap some of the other plays that I got last week, was very happy with Josh Allen over 6.5 rush attempts. I thought that was one of the better handicap player props I had all season. Josh Allen, every time he plays the Chiefs, rushes the ball significantly a higher amount of times than an average game that he plays in, and I think he ended with 12 rushing. I think it was 10 rushing attempts, but then he got to 12 because of 2 kneel downs late in the game. Which is not actually something I'd considered for rushing attempts. Kneel downs actually do count. Something to keep in mind moving forward. So that prop hit by quite a bit. I do got to say, I bet on DeMarcus Robinson of the Rams. That was my other touchdown score at 4-1 to score against the Patriots. And if you listen to last week's episode, a big reason for that pick was that I thought Christian Gonzalez would be covering either Puka Nacua or Cooper Kupp, which would allow DeMarcus Robinson to be open, and the Rams would maybe target DeMarcus Robinson to attack the lack of depth of the Patriots secondary. And it was very funny. I had a lot of people tagging me in tweets about it, but for some reason the Patriots put Christian Gonzalez, their best corner, on DeMarcus Robinson, which allowed Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua to just rack up 1 million catches and 1 million yards. So if I knew the Patriots were going to put their number 1 corner on the Rams' number 3 receiver, I guess I probably wouldn't have bet on him to score a touchdown. So that's my bad. I should have reached out to the Patriots defensive coordinator and found out who he was going to use, who he was going to cover with his number 1 corner. Zach Ertz on Thursday night had under 3.5 receptions. I think he had 2 heading into the final drive, and then had 5 catches on the final garbage time drive for the Commanders. Devon Achane, over 35.5 receiving yards. I think he finished with over 34.5, I think, or 33.5. Other than that, 5-5 for a small profit. I'm never going to complain about a profit, but we were right there with a handful of them that didn't come through for us. But that's okay. We finished with a profit that does. We are still in the red for the season, but that is a step in the right direction. Season record sitting at 53, 56-1 for minus 2.86 units. But a step, just like the road to 272, we're taking a step in the right direction towards a profit. So let's get into it. I'm going to try to make these player prop episodes a little bit quicker than I have been. I've been yapping on these episodes. I'm going to try to cut down on the yapping a little bit. Let's get right into it. Number 10 player prop for Week 12. A lot of running back player props this week. Starting with this one, actually, the first 4 player props are going to be all running back ones. Aaron Jones of the Minnesota Vikings, I'm going to take him to go over 61.5 rush yards at minus 110 against the Chicago Bears. The Vikings' path towards moving the ball offensively and beating the Bears, I do think, is on the ground because, and I've talked about this in the past, the Bears have one of the best secondaries in the NFL, one of the elite secondaries in the NFL. They're actually second in opponent dropback EPA, but you can run the ball on this Bears defense. 24th in opponent rush EPA, 26th in opponent yards per carry, giving up 4.8 yards per rush. And Aaron Jones, we don't got to worry about him getting carries unless he gets hurt, because he has kind of been a weird player where it seems like every game he gets banged up. He comes back in the game. He's questionable. He still plays. Just as long as he keeps getting carries, I'll be all right. And he is averaging 15.7 carries per game, 57.6 rush yards per game. So we only need him to go over 5 yards over his season average against one of the worst rush defenses he's faced this season, especially if you consider the game plan for the Vikings should be to run the football. I think we're going to be okay here if Aaron Jones can stay on the field. So Aaron Jones of the Vikings over 61.5 rush yards at minus 110. I actually do want to bring up one thing that I meant to bring up in the intro and I forgot. I'm just remembering right now. A mistake I made in this week's Road to 272. I was talking about the game between the Commanders and the Cowboys this weekend. And I was talking about how Cliff Kingsbury regresses as the season goes on as an offensive coordinator. I then mentioned that Vic Fangio gets better as a defensive coordinator. I got Vic Fangio and Mike Zimmer mixed up as my two defense coordinators, two old, late 60s defensive coordinators. The graph I was looking at was obviously showing Vic Fangio defenses because I'm sure that graph that I was reading was for last week's game when the Commanders played against the Eagles. So I incorrectly said the Cowboys defensive coordinator is Vic Fangio. Hand up, my mistake. I don't know, it was late at night. Mistake on my part. I obviously know Vic Fangio is the Eagles defensive coordinator. Mike Zimmer is the Cowboys defense coordinator. Still, that does not change my handicap of that play whatsoever, but I had some people send me a DM on Twitter letting me know the mistake. So, hand up, recognize it, made a mistake. Vic Fangio, Eagles defense coordinator, not Cowboys defense coordinator. All right, moving on to number 9 player prop for this week. Another running back one. This one's going to be an under. It's going to be David Montgomery of the Lions to go under 57.5 rush yards at -109 against the Indianapolis Colts. I wouldn't be surprised. I know the Lions have a two-headed monster in the backfield. I know David Montgomery is extremely good at finding the end zone. He's a great goal line back. He has a nose for the end zone. But I do think we are going to see, in terms of when the ball is in between the 20-yard lines, I do think we're going to see Jahmyr Gibbs start to get more of the carries. And I think they would be smart to do that because Jahmyr Gibbs has been by far the more efficient running back this season. Jahmyr Gibbs averaging 6 yards a carry, which is insane at the NFL level. David Montgomery only averaging 4.3. So I still think they should and they will use him in short yardage situations, especially goal line situations. But we're talking about him going over 57.5 rush yards in a spot where I think his carries are going to be reduced a little bit compared to his season average. And he has rushed for 33 or fewer yards in 3 of his last 5 games. So he is a little bit of a boom or bust rusher. And he seems to get more carries and more yards when the Lions win by a lot. I do generally think the Colts are going to be able to keep this at least a little bit within reach. So David Montgomery of the Lions to go under 57.5 rush yards, -109. Just taking a quick sip of my coffee and Bailey's. It is officially the holidays, which means Bailey's time. If you don't drink coffee and Bailey's, I don't want to talk to you. We can no longer be friends. Number 8 player prop for this week. Brian Robinson, not Bijan Robinson. Falcons on a bye. Couldn't be Bijan Robinson. Brian Robinson of the Washington Commanders, over 68.5 rush yards at -117. This is, one that I've played quite a bit this season. 2 of the most profitable type of player props I've done, 2 of the ones I've done the most, is take the quarterback to go over their pass yards when they face the Ravens, take the running back over their rush yards when they take on the Cowboys, and that is what we have here. Cowboys dead last in opponent rush EPA, 28th in opponent rush success rate. They give up 4.7 yards per carry. And Brian Robinson's averaging a solid 4.5 yards per carry this season, 65.5 yards per game, so he just needs to go 4 yards over his season average against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, and he's going to be able to cash this prop for us. I also think, and I think Monday night when the Texans did it, just riding Joe Mixon all game, I do think teams have shown that you can just run the ball all game against this Cowboys defense. And if, other coaches are smart, they're going to pick up on that and do exactly that. Because it doesn't matter how many players the Cowboys put in the box, they are allowing oodles of rush yards. So I'll take Brian Robinson, the Commanders running back, over 68.5 rush yards at -117. Number 7 ranked player prop for this week, another running back one, and actually the second running back prop for the same game for the Vikings and the Bears. I took the over on Aaron Jones and his rush yards. For the other team, I'm going to go DeAndre Swift under 62.5 rush yards at -111. The Minnesota Vikings are and arguably the number 1 rush defense in the NFL. We have seen enough of a sample size now. We have seen, different teams that the Vikings have played. Good teams good running teams, bad running teams, and the Vikings now entering Week 12 rank first in opponent rush EPA, first in opponent rush success rate, second in opponent yards per carry, giving up 3.6 yards per rush. DeAndre Swift is averaging 63.5 rush yards per game. So basically his rush total is set at a season average, but now he has to take on the best run defense. That doesn't necessarily add up. And Chicago has actually thrown the ball more lately. Over their last 3 games, they have thrown the ball on 60.91% of their plays. That is the 10th highest rate in the NFL over that stretch and about 4% higher than their full season average of passing play percentage. So check. It's checking all the boxes. We're going to go DeAndre Swift under 62.5 rush yards and minus 111 against the Vikings. Number 6 player prop of the week. This is my touchdown bet, only 1 touchdown bet this week. And I kind of actually struggled finding a touchdown score that I like this week because there are a lot of lopsided spreads, lopsided games. And I do find it hard to pick touchdown scores in those games because you don't really know what the game script is going to be. If it's a blowout, there's going to be, a little bit of different game script for both teams. The team that's losing a blow, it's going to throw the ball a lot more than you expect. The team that's winning a blow is going to run the ball a lot more than you're going to expect. And in blowouts, you'll see some backups come in the second half. When will those backups go in? Will those backups go in whatsoever? Perfect example actually was Monday night, which I didn't give this pick out. I gave it on Stacking the Box, I think. It was just a small sprinkle for me, but I bet on Dare Akumbayambawe. Ooh, that's not good that I probably mispronounced his name. Who the Texans backup running back? Dare Agunbawale. I was close. I think I was close enough that wasn't offensive. I actually sprinkled a little bit on him to score a touchdown at pretty long odds. I think like 6-1, thinking the Texans are going to win in a blowout. They put in their backup running back late in the game to keep Joe Mixon healthy, which a lot of teams would do. And then this guy, Agunbawale, would get some goal line carries. Everything lined up. The Texans won in a blowout. They had a goal line situation late in the game when the game was already put away. But for some reason, they kept Joe Mixon in the game and gave him a 3rd touchdown. That kind of thing is hard to predict. In blowouts, our team's going to switch out their starters early. Are they going to keep their starters in? It's impossible to tell, which is why, this is a long-winded way of me explaining, I find it hard to find touchdown scores I want to bet on in lopsided games, which limits our option for week 12 because there are a lot of games that have a big spread. So I targeted the closest spread of the week, which is the Cardinals and the Seahawks, and I'm going to take a guy who I've already cashed on. I don't know if his player prop countdown, it might have just been side bets. It might have even just been props, but he is definitely a guy I've targeted in the prop market at times this season, and it is Michael Wilson of the Cardinals. The receiver for the Cardinals, I'm going to bet on him to score a touchdown at plus 340. Those odds are available at Caesars. I'll always tell you where the sports book is, where I bet touchdown bets, because those vary quite significantly, more so than other player props. So plus 340 Michael Wilson, I got it at Caesars. Already has 3 touchdowns this season. He is the clear number 2 receiver for the Cardinals, number 3 pass catcher. It is obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. It is Trey McBride, and then the clear number 3, even above Greg Dortch by a significant margin in terms of targets, receptions, yards, is Michael Wilson. The Seahawks, 25th in opponent dropback EPA, 29th in opponent dropback success rate since week 6, and the Seahawks are giving up 1.5 passing touchdowns per game. So I think the Cardinals can really attack the Seahawks team through the air, and I do think in a lot of prop markets, especially touchdown markets, I do think Michael Wilson is significantly undervalued. So I'm going to go Michael Wilson touchdown, anytime touchdown, plus 340 for the Cardinals against the Shithawks. If the Shithawks beat the Falcons, what does that make the Falcons? The Falcons. Failcons. Number 5 player prop of the week. It is Matthew Stafford on Sunday Night Football to go under 242.5 pass yards against the Philadelphia Eagles. It's for a lot of the same reasons why I'm taking the under in this game, is because the Eagles secondary has been fantastic. Ever since the first few weeks of the season, they then made some changes. They gave some more playing time to Quinyon Mitchell. They moved Cooper DeJean to a nickelback position, and since then, their secondary has been dominant. Actually, they now lead the NFL in opponent yards per pass attempt. They're giving up just 5.5 yards per throw. They're second in total opponent passing yards per game, giving up to 173.2 passing yards per game, which is, oh boy, quick math, 30, 40, approximately 70 yards. They're giving up an average of 70 yards fewer than Stafford's set total for this game. They're also second in opponent dropback EPA, first in opponent dropback success rate. If you want to talk advanced metrics, those two are since week 6. So the Eagles, very, very, very good secondary. Matt Stafford, I think he's averaging about 250 pass yards per game, so this is slightly under. But based on how good the Eagles secondary is, I don't think he's even going to be able to reach that. So I'm going to take Matt Stafford under 242 pass yards, minus 115 on Sunday Night Football. Waiting all day till Sunday night. Number 4 player prop for NFL Week 12. And I have not done these types of prop bets before. I got 2 this week though. Number 4 is CJ Stroud under 36.5 for his longest completion. So for CJ Stroud's longest completion to be 36 yards or fewer. Now, if you watch Circles Back, which is the offshoot of Circles Off, Rob Pizzola, Jeff Feinberg, two of my favorite people in the sports betting space, I recommend watching the show if you're into sports betting whatsoever, especially if you're into sports betting Twitter. It is very fun. They recap some sports betting drama. Rob Pizzola, I'm going to kind of go off track here a little bit. If you really don't care about the online sports betting space, then this is going to be irrelevant for you. But Rob Pizzola has picked an enemy in the sports betting space named Simon Hunter. And I'm glad he's doing it. If you follow me for a long time, if you follow me back in the Odd Shark days, I used to get in the mud with idiots in the sports betting space. I miss those days. I get in the mud hardly ever at all nowadays. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just getting older. Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe I just don't have the time or the energy for it. But Rob Pizzola is one of the guys who has been getting in the mud for years, continues to get in the mud, and I appreciate that. We need those guys fighting on the front line, because I will tell you what, there is nothing that bugs me more in the world, really, and on any topic, but especially sports betting, people who act like they're smart, tell people they're smart, tell people they're professionals, but they're not. I am not a professional bettor. I am a recreational bettor. I tend to think that I use some good strategies that will maybe help me lose not as much as some other people will. But I'm by no means a professional bettor or even a semi-professional bettor. I'm aware of that. I advertise that. I keep all my records very public. You can all go see them on BetStamp. There are a lot of people in the sports betting space who call themselves professional bettors, but then hide their records. And they're either long-term losers, or in this case, specifically this case, they say things that are factually incorrect, which bothers me in sports media in general. I'll watch like talking heads on Sunday Night Football broadcasts just say things that are wrong. They'll be like, oh, watch out for this defense. They're one of the best run defenses in the NFL. It's like, what metric says they're a good run defense? There's none. Simon Hunter calls himself a professional bettor, and I'm not going to kind of get in this mix. Go watch Circles Off. They've done full episodes on this guy. Works for Action Network, calls himself a professional bettor all the time, says things that are factually wrong. Rob Pizzola likes to get in the mud with him all the time. I'm going to side with Rob Pizzola because I know for a fact he's a professional bettor. He's very clearly a smart professional bettor. I've learned quite a bit from Rob Pizzola. I encourage you to follow him if you don't already. I assume you probably do if you like sports betting whatsoever. Simon Hunter said this week on their Action Network podcast that teams are targeting the Tennessee Titans and just throwing the deep ball against them all game. Rob listens to his podcast and always calls out things that he gets wrong or lies about, because Simon Hunter is a pathological liar. That's simply not true. Teams don't throw the ball all day against the Titans, and when they do, they're not successful. And credit to Rob, he actually tweeted out this stat. Titans have allowed 7 completions of 20-plus air yards this NFL season. That's the second fewest. They allow a completion percentage of 20% on deep targets. That is the best completion percentage on deep targets. And teams have taken a total of 31 attempts of deep shots on the Titans this season. The league average is 36.5. So there's a below average number of teams taking deep shots on the Titans. And when they are taking deep shots, they're actually extremely unsuccessful in doing so. And then to just kind of add to that stat, a stat to add to that I found, the Titans have allowed only 23 passing plays of 20 plus yards. That is actually the 5th best mark in the NFL. So this Simon Hunter guy who claims to be professional better just says things that are just factually incorrect. And we're not talking about something that's an opinion. It's not like one person says the Jets are a good team and another person says the Jets are a bad team, which is, subjective. You can make arguments. He's saying something that you can verifiably come up with stats to say if it's true or not. He's saying teams take a ton of deep shots against the Titans. They factually don't. And they also, when they do, they're not successful. And part of the reason why he's betting the Texans is he's saying that the Texans will take plenty of deep shots and they'll be successful in doing so, even though that is not factually the case. Not to say the Texans will or will not cover the Titans, but you can't say an argument for betting on the Texans is that they're going to be extremely successful throwing the deep ball because the Titans give up a ton of deep balls when that is quite factually not true, which you can look up. And if you took some time to research your picks and to give them out on a podcast that has listeners, you would usually back things up that have actual metrics. All of this is to say, this player prop is now... I've now joined in this fight alongside Rob Pizzola. This player prop is now... I'm only playing this because Simon Hunter was wrong about what he said. So I'm going to take CJ Stroud, his longest completion to be under 36.5 yards. That is to say, I'm sure it's now going to be an outlier game and CJ Stroud's going to have like 5 50-yard throws. But the metrics do back this up. Lowest completion percentage on deep bombs, on deep throws in the NFL. Only allowed 23 passing plays of 20 plus yards, 5th best mark. It does actually make sense when you bring up the metrics. I'm not telling you to bet this for random metrics that don't exist, for random arguments that don't exist. And look at that. I'm not a professional bettor if I can come up with these metrics. If you claim to be a professional bettor, you think you'd also be able to come up with actual, factual metrics. That is all to say I'm going to take CJ Stroud under 36.5 yards for his longest completion. It's a pity party. Not pity, petty. I'm being petty. It's a petty party. Number 3 player prop for this week. Another running back one. We're going over this one. Bucky Irving over 50.5 rush yards, minus 115 against the worst run defense in the NFL, the New York Giants. Now, someone like Simon Hunter may say the Giants give up tons of yards on the ground and then just move on and not actually back that up with metrics. Me, an idiot bettor who doesn't claim to be a professional bettor, will let you know that the Giants are 27th in opponent rush EPA, 24th in opponent rush success rate, and they give up 5.3 yards per carry, which is the worst mark in the NFL by 0.3 yards. Bucky Irving is actually also averaging 5.1 yards per carry, 49.2 rushing yards per game. So he needs 2 yards more than his season average against the worst run defense in the NFL. Seems like a pretty good player prop to me, or at least that's what verifiable metrics tell me. Bucky Irving over 50.5 rush yards, minus 115. Another side note, I'm now fired up because now I'm getting the rush I used to get getting in the mud. And this is a rant I've gone on plenty of times before in my podcast, but not recently. So I guess it bears repeating. Do you know how hard it is to be a professional bettor? Do you even know what being a professional bettor entails? I'll tell you who's not being a professional. And this is why I don't call myself a professional bettor. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. When you first learn about something, you think you know a lot. And then as your knowledge grows, you take a huge dip, and then you realize you don't know how much you know. And then eventually when you do know a lot, you're also confident, and you should be confident. I'm at the spot where, I know kind of an average amount, but I know just enough to know how little I know, which is why I would never claim I'm a professional bettor, because I know professional bettors. I know how they bet professionally on sports. I'll tell you who's not a professional, and you have to be a pro bettor to even make money doing it, a little bit of money. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be a very smart person. You have to be a very objective person. You have to obviously take advantage of markets, take advantage of the best lines available. You know who doesn't do all that? Frat boys who sell their picks on Dub Club, who are 22 years old and who place their bets an hour before the game. The Dub Club thing is truly an epidemic in the sports betting space. If you're selling picks, you better be a proven winner or else it's a scam. And if you're selling picks, the large majority of the time, you're not probably sending out a pick, an hour before. And you probably got to send out like a notification because those markets are probably going to move if you're an actual respected bettor. Professional bettors have to get other people to place bets for them at most sports books because they're banned from them. You know who's not banned from sports books? Frat boys. Frat boys on Dub Club who go on Book It by Trent's show. By the way, I like him because he doesn't claim to be a professional bettor. But sometimes some guys in his networks who claim to be pros and they're just like 23-year-old frat boys, they're losing bettors. Just be honest. Be honest about your record. That's all you ask, and don't sell picks. Unless you truly have a long track record of making money betting on sports, don't sell picks. Don't sign up at Dub Club. And don't give out picks. Know you have a losing record, and then tell people you're a pro and that you win money. Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. And if you're buying picks, please just listen to me when I say 23-year-old frat boys are not beating the books. Pro bettors are very smart people, a lot smarter than me. It's not frat boys. I'm fucking fired up today. I'm fired up. Bring me back to my Odd Shark days when I used to go on, get in the mud on Twitter every day. And I will say, the Dunning-Kruger effect, my first season betting college basketball like 6 years ago, I had a really good season. And this happens to so many people on Twitter. They have a very good season in one sport, think they figured out the sport, and then start selling picks the next season, and then they suck. That happened to me after my first year betting college basketball. I was like, oh, I'm a great college basketball bettor. If you go to my BetStamp account and look at my lifetime record in college basketball. Now, I will say I haven't started tracking college basketball on BetStamp for 2 or 3 years. It's now my worst sport. Now, thankfully, I didn't take the first year where I was really good at betting college basketball and then next year start selling picks. I was at least smart enough to go, give me a couple years, see if I can sustain this. Spoiler alert, I couldn't. I suck at selling college basketball. But now with college basketball season starting, I'm seeing guys who had one good year last year. They're on Dub Club. What happened? They suck now. Why? Because they're not actually doing things that a professional bettor does. Eventually, I hope they learn to realize how little they know. And join me in just doing our best to finish the season not in the red. Speaking of which, I will be betting on college basketball shortly. And I will do my best to have my first profitable season since that 1 year, like 5 or 6 years ago, when I finished like up 40 units. And I felt like I couldn't miss. It's been rough in college basketball since then. I'm yapping. I said I wasn't going to yap this episode, and I've been yapping. Number 2 player prop for this week, Joshua Cardi, the kicker for the LA Rams. Over 1.5 field goals made, minus 121. I want to get back on some field goal kicker props. I do feel like there are some good opportunities to cash on these. And this is my strategy when betting field goal props is you take a team that is bad in the red zone going up against a team whose defense is good in the red zone. Typically, I guess, but logically, that should lead to more field goal attempts, and I think that's what we have here. The Rams are bad in the red zone, 25th in red zone offense, scoring a touchdown on 50% of the red zone trips. Eagles, very good in red zone defense. Teams are only scoring a touchdown on 46.43% of the red zone trips, and the Rams are also attempting an average of 2 field goals per game. So, bad red zone offense, good red zone defense, already attempting 2 field goals a game. Cardi is 80% on field goals a season. Not great, but not bad. I think this is worth a bet on Sunday Night Football. And it does kind of line up with my under bet, which I gave out in the road to 272. Because if you're going to cash an under, typically you're going to see more field goals and touchdowns. Give me Joshua Cardi over 1.5 field goals made, minus 121. Now, you may have realized I have not given out a Thursday night player prop yet on this show. It's because my Thursday night player prop is actually my favorite player prop of the entire week. It is George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Cleveland Browns. We're doing another longest reception. We're going over this time, though, and I guess the previous one was a quarterback for throwing a reception. This is a receiver catching a reception. George Pickens, his longest reception to be at least 24 yards. So over 23.5 longest reception at minus 120. He has had a reception of 27 yards or longer in 8 of his 10 starts this season. He has also had a reception of 30-plus yards in 5 straight games, and the Browns have allowed 36 passing plays of 20-plus yards this season. That is the 4th most in the NFL. So this is a guy who continuously hauls in deep passes, especially with Russell Wilson. Since Russell Wilson has taken over at quarterback, he has had one of at least 30 yards in every game. We don't even need that. We just need 24. And then now he's taken on a defense that has given up plenty of deep shots this season. Once again, 36 passing plays of 20-plus yards, the 4th most in the NFL. Absolutely love this play on Thursday Night Football. George Pickens over 23.5 for his longest reception at minus 120. All right, here we go. Let's recap all those plays. Number 10, the player prop for the week, Aaron Jones over 61.5 rush yards, minus 110. David Montgomery under 57.5 rush yards, minus 109. Brian Robinson over 68.5 rush yards, minus 117. DeAndre Swift under 62.5 rush yards, minus 111. Michael Wilson touchdown plus 340 over at Caesars for the Cardinals against the Seahawks. Matt Stafford under 242.5 pass yards, minus 115 against the Eagles. CJ Stroud under 36.5 completions. CJ Stroud under 36.5 longest completion, minus 116 against the Titans. Fuck Simon Hunter. Bucky Irving over 50.5 rush yards, minus 115 against the Giants. Joshua Cardi over 1.5 made field goals against the Eagles. I got 2 props for that game. And then finally, George Pickens on Thursday Night Football. Longest reception, over 23.5 yards, minus 120. No DFS lineup this week. I made one on the side last week, and it was, once again, terrible. I'm not good at DFS. I needed... Before next season, I'm going to do some research about how to actually make DFS lineups. I guess my strategy of just taking players whose player props I like the over on and putting them in a DFS lineup didn't work for me. Once again, this is an example of I know enough to know how much I don't know. And I'm being very transparent, telling you how much I don't know about DFS, so I'm going to stop giving you a terrible picks. At least with sports betting, I can do somewhat decent. I think I do better than the average, better in the NFL. Now, some people would see that they were terrible in DFS and think, I'm just going to tell people I'm really good and a professional daily fantasy player, sell my picks, make money, everyone go fuck themselves. I am not that. If nothing else, I am a man of integrity. A man who will admit that he accidentally said that Vic Fangio was a Dallas Cowboys defense coordinator last episode. Tough look. Can't do that. Can't have that happen. All right. That is the Week 12 edition of the Player Prop Countdown. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Subscribe to the Bacon Bets podcast on YouTube. Best of luck with your picks this week, whether it's player props or side and totals. May Gambler, the gambling god, bless all of your bets. May they bless all of our bets. Quick announcement, actually, next week is Thanksgiving week. I understand that. American Thanksgiving. I will also be traveling to Canada next week. So there will be no Player Prop Countdown episode next week because I will be flying Wednesday night, and then I just won't be able to record. So my schedule for next week is normal for Road to 272. That will come out Tuesday morning as usual. I will then Tuesday night record a Thanksgiving episode where I give my best bet and best player prop for the 3 Thanksgiving Day games. I will be doing the Player Prop Countdown, but the Player Prop Countdown will only be the written version. I will write it on Sports Illustrated, si.com/betting. I will write it first thing Thursday morning. I will then tweet it out. So you'll get my player props. They will only be in written form, though. You will get 2 episodes next week. One is normal Road to 272. The other is a Thanksgiving special. No audio version of the player prop countdown next week, written only at si.com/betting. For the most part, because I do also get messages quite often asking for my NHL picks or my golf picks or anything, go to my Sports Illustrated author page. You can bookmark that if you want. Any and all picks that I bet on, I will write an article for. Some extra picks I will write an article for. If for some reason there are picks that I do not write an article for, I will tweet them out. So if you both look at my Sports Illustrated author page and my Twitter, and there is an event I have not given out bets for, or if, especially golf, I know recently, for a great example, I've just not bet on golf recently. If I don't write an article, if I don't tweet anything out, that means I have not placed any bets for one reason or another. Maybe it's because I didn't have time to research it. Maybe it's I did research it and didn't like any plays. So that's a little piece of advice for people who have been DMing me wanting my plays. Look either on my Twitter timeline or my author page over at si.com/betting. Thank you all so much for watching, listening. Sorry for yapping. Best of luck this weekend. I'll talk to you next week.